Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
We all agreed that the tree was not dead.
How does anybody know without, all right.
Well, it's wintertime. Trees are dormant.
The fact that there's no leaves in wintertime, it's not how someone determines whether a tree is dead. You scrape and you see if there's green where you scrape, or I have a tree guy tell me.
This is the plaintiff, Antoinette Martin. She says the defendant, her intrusive neighbor, trespassed onto her property and cut down one of her trees without her permission. She thinks he has some nerve destroying her property. There's no way she's going to allow him to get away with it, and is suing him here and now for the $3,000 she's owed. This is the defendant, Dean Coleman. He says he did in fact do the plaintiff a big favor because the tree he trimmed down was a danger to his family because it was dead and rotten. He even discussed the cost of trimming the tree with the plaintiff. They agreed on a price, and instead of saying thank you to him, she's suing him? Please. He's accused of cutting things too close with a neighbor.
All parties, please use your right hand.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Marilyn Milian in our forum, the People's Court.
Be seated. Come to order, please. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Antoinette Martin, you are neighbors with Mr. Coleman, correct?
Yes.
How long have you been neighbors?
I've been in my home for more than 20 years. I believe he's been my neighbor for 3.
Okay. Now, there's a tree in question that you are quite angry about. What happened? What according to you, did he do?
Okay, so one evening in February, I drove into my driveway, and I'm sitting in the car talking, and Mr. Coleman approached my vehicle, and he said, well, the tree on the right is okay. I just want to cut the branches off of it because that are hanging over to my property. And then he said, the tree in the left side is dead. He said, I had someone come and look at the tree, and they told me it would cost $1,700 to take the tree down, and it would cost $800 to remove the branches. And so I said to Mr. Coleman, I will need to speak to my husband and other people. I'm not sure that tree is dead. I need to take a look at it. He said, okay, I'll see you on Monday. Monday came and went. I never saw Mr. Coleman again. He didn't
did you speak to anybody?
Me. I spoke to my husband and my parents. And we all agreed that the tree was not dead.
How does anybody know without, all right, go
Well,
ahead.
it's wintertime. Trees are dormant.
The fact that there's no leaves in wintertime, it's not how someone determines whether a tree is dead. You scrape and you see if there's green where you scrape, or I have a tree guy tell me. Do you tell him, no, I don't want the tree moved, or you don't say anything?
We didn't see each other,
okay, and then
so
what happened?
I didn't say anything.
So what happened?
So by Friday of that week, it was February 15th, when I came home, it was dark, but I looked in the backyard, and I see that the tree was cut down.
All right, so what had happened?
Okay, first off, it wasn't the first time I had gone to Mrs. Martin. Prior to that, I had a gate removed, and I went to Mrs. Martin as well as some of the other adjacent neighbors and told them I was going to replace the fence.
Okay.
And they all were they all approved it, and they were actually happy. Now, this tree actually stands on the property line.
On the property line?
Yes, and having to put up when putting up the new fence, the fence personnel had to actually go around the trees.
Really?
Yes. So
They
I
had to, or they did avoid?
They had to avoid them by going around and encroaching back onto my property to avoid the trees. So I had the right at that point to trim the trees as far as their trunks that was obscuring the line. I didn't do that just to be, just out of courtesy. I left them as is. But upon living there for 2.5 years, I noticed that every other day, debris and branches were falling onto my driveway, my side door, where I have to use to access my home. My child accesses the backyard and the side yard. So it's a danger in terms of property, in terms of people. So that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to trim the trees, just what hangs over my line.
Do you have anything from an arborist saying the tree was dead?
Correct.
No, I didn't. If you do, then show it to me. If that is correct, you do have. Do you have anything from an arborist saying the tree was dead?
Not
Hand it
anything
to
in
me.
writing, no.
Well, how are you going to prove that?
Well, again, I have the receipt from.
No, that proves you paid X to kill it. That doesn't prove it was dead, and that's why you killed it. This is the tree.
That is the tree.
It's just
There
a
are
stick.
2 trees.
Do we have a picture of this tree before it became a post?
I have it in
I have photos.
Google Maps.
Okay, but I can't.
So what you see there is a tree that's on the neighbor's property that is in fact dead, and they removed it.
You want to go over there and show me what you're saying?
Sure.
Yeah. What tree did he cut down?
This tree.
The one with all those leaves on it?
Yes, it's behind this dead tree. This is an old photograph from Google Maps. And this tree,
How old is this photograph?
2015.
Okay, well, that big, bushy, luscious thing gave leaves like that when for the last time?
Last summer.
Well, then why would he say that it's dead? He's lying?
I think he is.
Okay, go ahead and go back. She says that it's that big, bushy one back there.
That's not a recent photo. I have recent photos. of
Okay,
the
let me
tree.
see that. Please step over there, if you would.
So you can see here the new fence put up last year. So you can see this is a recent photo.
Right.
That's the tree even prior to the fence being put up. You could see this arm was snapped off, broken off. The arm that stood over her property. Now the piece that's still intact is above my property. I attempted to just trim it.
Where did you cut it?
Right here below, just below where the branches are. And
Is
now
that
you can
accurate?
clearly see the rot on the body of the tree
Is this picture taken from your yard or her yard?
from my yard.
From your yard. So this has nothing to do with the accommodation. Okay, the accommodation's back here for another tree.
No, there's a small accommodation for this tree first there, and then another one for the second tree.
Because this fence goes like this and then comes in 6 inches the rest of the way to accommodate this one. So this would be where the property line is?
Correct.
So is a fence on the property line?
As far as I know.
Okay. The new fence that he built, is it also on the property line until he starts to accommodate trees?
Yes.
So that means the trees are on the property line.
I'm not sure. I have to get a surveyor at this point.
Do you have a survey?
Not with
Do
me.
you have a survey?
I
Not
don't.
with you. You have a survey, but you didn't bring it to court?
Well, I didn't realize I would need that.
Well, I don't know why you wouldn't realize that you would need that. If you're being sued for knocking down trees that are on the property line, they're half yours. You didn't think about that? Go ahead and go back to yours. So, is it your position that she gave you authority that day, or?
Yes. Now let me tell you how the story went when I met with her. There was no, don't do it. Let me talk to someone.
No, she
never.
Well, she says she never told you to
resisted
do
or
it.
no,
but
she
never told you
resisted.
to not do it.
She was actually a proponent towards it. She
What
said.
is I want to hear her words. What did you say?
Exact
she said?
conversation was, okay, so I spoke to a tree guy, and he said, the tree is dying. We need to remove the tree because
That's
the
you.
danger is, yes, a storm could knock it over into my property. Well, you know what? It did break off prior, and something with the other neighbors before, so maybe you're right. How much did they say? I said $1,750. This is why prices was discussed. $1,750 for total removal, $800 for a trim. $1,750, boy, that sounds like a lot. You know what? Maybe I can work with the $800. All right, so I tell you what, I'll come back to you on Monday and we figure out how much of it you're willing to contribute. Okay, no problem. Came back on Monday, long story short, she wasn't there. So I said, all right, in my mind, I already have permission from her. I'm gonna foot the bill and pay for the tree, and then if anything, neighborly, we figure out the difference later.
Okay, now according to you, they trespassed on your property to cut it because you never gave authority. According to you, she did give authority. She just
Absolutely.
hadn't settled what price,
Correct.
if any, she would pay towards it.
I promise you, Your Honor, had she said, no, you cannot chop the tree or whatever the case may be.
No, you strike me as that kind of guy when I see a fence going, around trees, because if it was me and I had a survey that showed that my fence was on the property line, the trees would be gone. And I'm entitled to put the fence on my property line, so.
I like to preserve nature.
Yeah, I got it, and that's fine. My concern, okay, is, when you say, well, I didn't say yes and I didn't say no, I know from looking at the fence that he's the kind of guy who talks to people. So it sounds like you were all for this until the day you weren't.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Harvey Levin here. So, if a tree is on your neighbor's property and it's dead, and they won't cut it down, and you think it could fall over on yours, can you go on their property and cut it down?
Maybe not in their property, but it can cut what's like moving over to your property. If trespassing, you'd have to cut it down. But it happened to me. Her tree fall under my property, I caught it, and then fall under her pool. And then she came to my property trespassing and said she's gonna sue me. How's that?
Ladies and gentlemen, we will take a commercial break for this telenovela. Going inside the courtroom.
The tree got cut, and you want $600 for tree trunk removal, $100 for the planting of a new tree, and $2,400 for trespassing onto your property, right?
Yes.
Okay, how did it hurt you to the tune of $2,400 to have somebody step onto your property?
Well, it was a very stressful situation. Yes, I discussed the previous neighbors because the other tree, one time the branches were hanging on that house. The previous neighbors simply cut the branches off, which is their right to do, and they never said anything to me.
That is their right.
As far as I am looking...
How is this that much different? Because we know that one branch is the one that's broken off already from the storm, and that does cause trees to rot, okay? Mm-hmm. That one is over yours, and then the other one is over his yard. And if he had to accommodate it to not kill it because he's a nature lover, I just don't see where you think that cutting that tree that was half dead, that's on a property line, that appears to belong to both of you, somehow entitles you to $3,000 when the part that's over your side is dead already from the storm. It doesn't. My verdict in this case is for the defendant.
Well, the judge finds the plaintiff did not have enough ammunition to prevail in this case. Ms. Martin, nobody mentioned anything, but do you think one of your problems is the tree looks so stupid the way it is right now?
Probably.
I mean, if he'd taken the whole thing out, would you have been as upset?
Still would be upset because the tree is on my property. It is not on the line.
Well, you couldn't prove that.
Yeah, I know.
You didn't have.
I don't have a survey.
You didn't have a survey. He said it was on the property line. The judge agreed with him.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have ammunition.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. So what are you going to do now, though? It does look kind of silly.
I'm going to get a survey,
yeah,
and I'm going to re-enter this to civil court.
Well, you've already lost the case. It's over now. But what about that tree standing there like that, looking like a post, as the judge
Yeah, I
called it?
have to get it removed.
Yeah, no kidding. It does look kind of silly. Mm-hmm. All right. Sorry
Thank
you lost
you.
the case. Okay. Good enough. All right, Mr. Coleman, do you think your troubles are over? I mean, you may have won this. Do you think you'll hear from more from her?
Hopefully it's over. Just want to be peaceful and neighborly and,
Would you agree, though, that the tree looks silly the way it is right now?
It does. Judging from her response to having it trimmed, God forbid I had it removed, she wouldn't have been able to contribute anything to the $1,750. So,
well, it's going to have to
I'd be
come
willing
down.
to help her remove it. I mean, I have the tree.
Why don't you tell her?
Oh, of course.
Go tell her that. Maybe that'll ease the situation a little bit.
Hopefully.
Something's got to be done with it.
Yes.
It looks pretty bad. For both of you.
Yes, it does.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you very much.
Good enough. All right. Harvey?
Okay, Doug, you are allowed to cut to the property line, and you can cut off all the branches to the property line, but you can't enter the property without permission. And that will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Pepcid Complete knows that food is one of the best parts of game day. That is, until heartburn strikes. Thankfully, just one chewable tablet of Pepcid Complete provides dual-action heartburn relief with an antacid that starts working instantly and an acid reducer that lasts all day. So you can stay focused on that second helping of chili without worrying about heartburn. All day based on 8-hour symptom relief studies during the day. Use product only as directed.
This is the plaintiff, Noah. She says she rented an apartment from the defendant and the woman did nothing about the rodent infestation. And the living conditions were gross. The defendant retaliated to her complaints by evicting her illegally. The defendant also threw her couch out, and she's here suing for the state max of $5,000 for all this horrible things the woman's put her through. This is the defendant, Helen Pugmire. She says she inherited the plaintiff's lease when she purchased the building and acted promptly when the plaintiff complained about rodents by hiring an exterminator. At the end of the plaintiff's lease, she decided to move out and she left behind her couch, so she threw it out. There was never an illegal lockout either because the plaintiff's lease was done. She had a new tenant moving in and the locks are always changed between tenants. She is accused of being a lackadaisical landlord. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $500 for legal costs.
All parties, please use your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket, the plaintiff rented from the defendant, but there was a rodent problem, and when the plaintiff complained, the defendant kicked her out. The defendant says she hired an exterminator, so what's the problem? It's the case of La Cucaracha.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome in.
Okay, Noah,
Yes.
you are suing for half of the rent that you paid your landlord, Helen Pugmire,
Yes.
to be returned to you because, according to you, the living conditions were deplorable. You're also suing for a couch that you say that she illegally threw out. When did you start living there?
I started living there 2016 August.
With 2 roommates, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you lived there until when was the last day that your roommates were going to live there?
The end of August 2018.
Okay, and in fact, before that was the end of your lease,
Yes.
right? Had you guys informed her that you weren't going to stay living there?
Yes.
You had told her we're out.
Yes.
You got a new tenant, right?
Yes.
And the new tenant was moving in on September 1st.
Yes.
So it's very clear that you're supposed to be out. And then what happens? You change your mind and you decide you're going to stay?
Yes.
How are you going to stay when you have no roommates? What was your plan on paying the rent?
I was going to find new roommates.
When do you tell her I'm staying?
A few
When
days
do you
bef-
change your mind?
A few days before we
When?
were supposed to move out. The 29th of August.
How do you tell her?
I
Text?
sent her an email.
Let me see the email. That's not the 29th, is it?
What date was it? I said around. I wasn't sure.
It's the 31st of August.
Okay.
It's the day you're supposed to be moving out.
Okay.
That's the very day that your roommates are both moving out, right? It's move out day. Everybody's moving. That's the day that you tell her, I will not be vacating the premises or giving up the lease. There is no need for a walkthrough, as I will not be returning the keys. So what was left behind in the apartment?
It's a beat up couch. Also, there's so many garbage in front of the house.
Let me see your pictures. Go ahead, you can give them to me. Who is the gentleman with you?
My husband.
Oh, okay. So I see, what is that? What are these pieces of wood?
Those wood is the couch wood frame. It's all like falling apart.
Did someone move the couch?
She moved
No,
the
it's
couch.
in there. It's
In another picture?
Yeah, it's
right.
like a broken. You see the spring
this?
on the back. Yes.
That's the couch?
Yeah, that's
right.
the thing. Was just laying there.
And then this is a picture of what? The couch?
Yeah, and some
A toaster oven that was left behind.
garbage.
Where's all your clothes? If you weren't moving out, where's all your clothes?
I had some things that I left there and some things that... These pictures are taken on the 1st, so they were taken after she already removed a lot of my items. I thought it was illegal to talk about things that I've already taken her to court for. I've already taken her to court for a legal lockout, so that shouldn't be talked about. What I'm here for is for breach of contract.
And no, it's not illegal. I can talk about it till the cows come home. In fact, I have to know what was already ruled on there. Now, you filed a case where? In housing court?
Yes.
Okay, and your allegation there was what?
That I was illegally locked out.
All right, and then how was that case resolved? You had a lawyer, your lawyer told you, offer her a little money and let's get this done and over with.
Yeah, there's a decision.
There's a settlement for $200, right?
Yeah, because she claimed that she did not illegally lock me out, and
right, but there's a settlement. Is it correct that you settled that case for $200?
Yes.
All right. You are suing because you want to have half of your portion of the rent for the 14 months that you lived there returned to you. And here are your photos. Tell me about it.
Okay, we moved into the apartment. There had always been a major rodent issue. It wasn't just mice, it was rats. You could see rats outside. They would dig holes in the front of the premises. Then when she took over...
There was a prior owner. She takes over in the middle of your lease?
She takes over, yes. And in the beginning, she tried to tell me that it didn't exist. I showed her the areas that I saw the mice entering and leaving from. She told me it was impossible, that the spaces were too small.
Oh, they can collapse into nothing to get in, yeah.
She had, little people who come and they just do more preventative measures.
So small corporation, smaller pest control people came in and did what?
They would do sprays behind the stove, the heater, but it was nothing that ever had any real effect. And then she gave me, stuff to fill the holes, and I kept telling her, these are all preventative measures. The issue is way bigger than this because the mice had chewed through the steel wool. They were coming in. Anytime we would have someone come, it would kind of die down for a little bit, and then it would start back up again. When it would die down, the mice that you would see would be smaller, and then you start seeing more rat-size rodents in the apartment.
Can I see the emails or texts where you're telling her about this throughout the course of the 14 months?
This is September.
It's not, okay, it's later in December where she says it's very unlikely that even the smallest of mice would be able to get in through here, but that's, I cannot tell you how small the hole can be for the mice to get in. So how was the treatment of the mice handled? What was the deal with that?
I ordered a pest control service on June 29, and I gave a phone number if they reoccur.
How many times did you call a pest control company out there?
4 times.
Okay. I mean, I believe you that there was a problem because you wouldn't bring it up over and over. So you feel that you should get half of your rent back for that?
Yes.
All right. You're counterclaiming against her $500 for legal fees for landlord-tenant court, $250, and then another $250?
Twice. One for housing court, which ended up...
Okay, but you didn't get your legal fees in housing court, so you wouldn't get that. That's where you go to get your legal fees for another tribunal somewhere else. That's where you would be asking for your legal fees. And then you say that you expended $250 on this case.
For the first appearance of this small claim court, I couldn't go, I'm busy. So I sent an attorney and they arranged adjournment.
Okay, do you have any proof that you paid the lawyer $250?
Yeah.
Let me see. Let's look at the pictures. Okay, what's this a picture of?
That was droppings.
Okay. What's this?
I don't know, this picture looks strange.
Okay.
Can't really see it. Oh, no, that's outside.
Yeah.
So that is the rat right there.
Oh, heck.
Oh, it is.
There it is.
And they would enter through that window, which it's going to.
Well, it's
and the
going
previous
home.
picture was the same thing, yeah.
And these
Those
are droppings?
And at one point, she came to the apartment to inspect whether or not the mice were coming through and picked up a dropping and smelt it as if it was fake.
I don't know if one were to pick up a dried out mouse dropping, there'd be an odor or not. That is a pleasure that I have not had.
Those are the holes that they would dig. So those holes were dug by rats going into the apartment.
Oh my goodness.
And that's it, one entering.
I could saddle that and ride it. That's a rat.
That's a real one.
Those are fixed.
And you can see there the steel wool that's pulled out by the mice.
So like this dark stuff that's right
Yes.
under the white?
Yes.
What's
No, we didn't
this?
get
I don't
them
even
all.
want to know.
That's my food that I left on the counter
Oh,
momentarily.
okay. I thought you had encased a rat inside of it. What about, were the baseboards ever changed or taken down and closed up so we could stop the mouse problem? And
They were very cheap.
no, I think it's more expensive to keep calling the people out. Yeah, no, it's much cheaper to do what I'm saying and try to solve the problem.
Yes, I spent like close to $1,000 for professional service.
Yeah, but that's because you're not solving the problem. If you solve you have to seal the holes where the things are coming in from.
They supposed to seal all the holes, the service people.
How are they going to seal the holes?
Well, they said if they see any holes.
Well, they're not looking because I'm seeing the holes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a problem. You know, there was a problem. Is it a half a rent problem? Probably not. Especially because she wanted to stay there anyway, so it couldn't have been that terrible a problem. And I see that you're trying to address it.
So if there are mice in an apartment, can the tenant automatically move out and get their deposit back?
Well, if the landlord has made arrangements to get them killed and taken care of, no.
Okay, that's a fair point. What do you say?
Totally agree. Absolutely.
So you have to give the landlord a chance to...
You have to give the landlord a chance to do what he's supposed to do.
Anybody move out automatically? They see one mice? Anybody?
No, not at all. I wouldn't move out.
What do you say about if you saw a mouse in the apartment? What would you do?
You run away.
Run away. Good move going inside the courtroom.
It's a close one, I have to tell you, but I'm not going to order a rent rebate. I think this is retaliation for what happened and, you know, all this bad blood between you guys. I think you never once thought of withholding rent, which people do when it's really unlivable. You wanted to stay there. I think that the measures that she took, I think that you spent more with these measures than you would have if you had handled it by sealing the holes to begin with. I think you should seal the holes now. I find the couch to be a piece of junk, and you're not entitled to $750 for that. It was a busted up thing. And I don't even think you were still really living there other than to say on 8/31, I'm staying, which was just a crazy thing to say because that was the end of your lease. On the counterclaim that you have against her for $500, I'm also finding zero. First of all, you can't ask for the stuff from landlord-tenant court. And second of all, I'm not going to award you $250 in legal fees because it was a close one. And you're entitled to legal fees when it's a ridiculous lawsuit. To me, it was a little closer than that. I'm not going to grant you the legal fees. That's my verdict. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
Well, in the end, no one prevails in these two competing cases. What are you thinking right now?
Not what I expected.
Rodent situation was pretty untenable. But
Well, that's what it was all about.
Well,
and I think if someone broke the contract because habitability is part of the contract and she didn't live up to that, that's what I'm suing her for.
Well, she tried.
So.
She had evidence that she tried.
Well,
okay, I'm sorry about that. You did your best, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You must sign some documents on your way out. Now, Ms. Pugmire, you know, I didn't understand. I didn't hear if you step over here. Do you and your husband live there in the building?
No.
I didn't think so. I don't know why, but I didn't think so.
Because of the rodent situation.
No?
We can live somewhere else.
It's an investment property, and we try to do very good thing for tenant, always responsible. But some property, it's just not very price type of property.
Well, it's obvious you could be doing a lot more for that one because it sounds like it's kind of messy there. You know?
Yeah, we try very hard to please
good luck.
tenant.
You got to do better. Okay?
Yeah.
But okay.
Thank you.
You must be on your way. Thank you, sir. Army?
Okay, look, Doug, they are all right, by the way, that the landlord does have to have an opportunity to cure the problem, but the more serious the problem, the quicker the landlord has to act. And that will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.
This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video, March 27th.
This is the plaintiff, Marilyn Rothrock. She says she purchased a car from the defendant, who used to be her good friend, and a short time later she was surrounded by cops with their guns drawn because she told them the car was stolen. The police arrested her. They impounded the car. $4,872 worth of her belongings were stolen out of it. And she's here seeking justice in exactly that amount. This is the defendant, Robert Milne. He says he lent the plaintiff a car. Then she just stopped communicating with him. So he reported the car stolen. And 10 months later, he was told the car was found. He picked it up at the tow yard. It was in pretty bad shape. And he was just going to forget about everything because they were once friends. Then he gets sued for almost $5,000. Some people. He's accused of filing a false report.
All parties, please use your right hand.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. Imagine the plaintiff is surrounded by cops with guns drawn after the defendant says the plaintiff stole his car, and she says she bought it. The defendant says he loaned the plaintiff the car, and she just disappeared. It's the case of son of a gun.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Ms. Rothrock, how do you and Mr. Milne know each other?
Well, we were friends for about 14 years.
Now, you had been renting cars because your car was totaled, correct?
Yes.
And at some point he offered to you, why don't you just drive or buy this car?
Yes.
What was the purchase price?
It was $2,500.
Did you pay that?
Well, the car needed repairs, so we decided that I would do the repairs and then we would subtract the amount from the $2,500. And at the time...
That's an odd way to buy a car.
Well, it was...
And in the meantime, you get to drive it?
Yes.
What were you paying while you were using the car?
I wasn't paying anything.
So you had a free car to use?
Well, no, because I had actually put about $1,900 in repairs, and then we just didn't... I decided that I was going to pay him when we transferred the title.
And what was the delay in transferring the title?
He was doing repairs at his house, so he wasn't able to find the title. Then he said he had to go to the state, and time just went by.
When we say time just went by, we're not talking about 10 days. We're talking about 10 months, right?
I wasn't
that
able to
apparently
drive
nobody can
it.
figure out how to solve the problem?
I wasn't able to drive it for all that time because the car actually sat for about 2 months. It wound up needing an alternator and wheel bearings, and so I had gotten a different car.
And then what happened at the end of those 2 months?
Well, I finished the repairs on the car, and then I had contacted Bob that we were supposed to meet, and he didn't show up.
You were supposed to meet and do what?
Transfer the title. And I would pay him then the balance.
And did he agree with you that that would be fine?
Yes.
Okay, let me hear your side of what's going on with this car.
As she stated, I did lend her the car on November 2015, but it should have been only for a few months, like the holidays, because I thought she was buying another car. And then her number just disappeared, and...
What does that mean?
Well, I had a number for her, I memorized, and that number just got deleted. I had no way to contact her.
When you say deleted from your brain or deleted from your phone?
From my phone.
Okay.
And...
What year car is this?
An 08.
How well did you know her that you just gave her your car?
Like she stated, I've known her 14 years.
So how do you have, like, how does her number disappear? Because if I know somebody so well that I give them a car, I know how to get the car back. I know how to get a hold of them.
I've known her all this time. I've been renting cars for her, you know, and...
Were you guys in a romantic relationship?
No, not at all.
No, but...
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
No,
We
and...
went on vacation and things together.
So I got tired of renting cars driving to Orlando, so I lent her my car for the short
Why were you
period.
renting? What you got tired of what? Renting cars for her?
That's what I was doing. I got the receipts right there.
You would rent the car?
And then let her
And then would
use
she
it.
pay you?
Yes.
Why would you do that?
I was doing it as a favor.
Does it make sense that the defendant, knowing this plaintiff for 14 years, had no idea how to get in touch with the plaintiff?
Makes no sense at all.
So you think the defendant's scamming?
I think there's a scam going on.
What do you say, sir?
There's got to be a way, no matter what. Even if you don't have their number, you know somebody who knows them. After 14 years, there's got to be.
Well said. And who hasn't talked yet? Ma'am?
There's always a connection, way to find their information.
6 degrees, Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, totally.
Got your point. Going inside the courtroom.
How did this work out, this favor where you loaned her a car
didn't,
and
as
you
you can
lost it? You had to
see.
call the police. You had to end up reporting
Exactly.
it stolen. Right.
I got it all here where I reported.
You think you know her that well? I don't think you know her that well.
I guess I didn't.
So when did you first decide to report the car stolen?
I waited January, February. I think I called the Melbourne Police Department. They wouldn't report it stolen because I handed her the keys, okay? After that, I waited and waited. No contact, nothing. So then about 4 months later, I called them again and say, look, I need to report this car stolen.
Yeah.
So the Melbourne Police Department came out to the house, and I made the same statement I made on the...
And magically they figured out what to charge?
They
Right, they
reported
figured out
it
how to do it.
stolen, and it
Right.
wasn't 45 days later before they found my car.
So how do you first find out that law enforcement's involved in taking the car back, ma'am?
I was driving. I had just picked up my son and pulled into a McDonald's and saw police cars behind me, and they had their guns drawn. I mean, it was pretty horrific. It was very serious.
I know. That's why you probably shouldn't take somebody's car and never surface.
Well, I did have an agreement of sale. The issue with the odometer, you couldn't read the odometer.
I don't care about what your issues are. At the end of the day, you didn't have the sale, and you kept the car, and then you lost touch with the guy who owns the car, and you knew it wasn't registered in your name. Why is this a huge surprise that the day of reckoning would come?
Because of the relationship that Bob and I had.
So you just thought you could take his car and not worry about it.
Well, I had loaned him my car in the past. It was that type of a relationship.
Wait, I want to get back to guns drawn on you because I like that part. So police come out of the car and it's guns drawn and what?
And they asked me to get out of the car, and they explained to me that the car had been reported stolen. At that point, they only do their job, and so they arrested me, even though I had
So
the
you got
agreement.
charged with grand theft?
Yes.
And then what happened with that case?
It was dismissed.
Okay. So what are you suing for? You're suing for almost $5,000 here today in unreturned belongings. What say you was in that car?
I have the items itemized. There were passports for both myself and my children. I also had birth certificates and library books. I had an Apple iPad.
What were you doing with passports and birth certificates in your car?
It was in a wallet.
Were you living out of your car?
No.
Okay, go
I had the passport because my one son was going to travel with his girlfriend the next day.
Okay, go on.
And then I had my Apple iPad, my cell phone. There were 2 cameras.
2 cameras?
Yes. The one camera had pictures of when we were in Europe. We had spent 6 weeks.
What
in
are 2
Barcelona.
cameras doing in your car?
I wasn't sure which one my son wanted to take on this trip.
Go on.
And then I also had a ring that was in the folder part of the tote. The tote had the...
You had a ring?
Yes.
What kind of ring?
It was a platinum and sapphire ring that I had purchased.
According to the Maitland Police Department vehicle inventory, they inventory all the items of value, and here's what they say you had. A new tire, a pet carrier with clothes, toiletry bag, miscellaneous clothing, pillows, hair dryer, miscellaneous books, sunglasses, miscellaneous makeup, shoes, miscellaneous vehicle fluids, and books. They don't mention a sapphire ring. They don't mention cameras. They don't mention a second camera. They don't mention an iPad. They don't mention a computer. They mention a bunch of junky stuff that doesn't have value.
Well, at the time when the police had come, 2 different police departments were working together that evening, and after I was taken away is when they did the inventory. Now,
what does that have to do with answering my question?
Because they didn't take anything out of the car. They just did a visual. The first officer was the one that had removed items out of the car, checked, looked over the laptop, looked over the phone, and,
Or either that or
checked
maybe
the
you
whole
didn't have
vehicle.
any of those things in there.
I'm sorry?
Either that or maybe you didn't have any of those things in there and you're just trying to collect $4,000 something from them.
No, that's incorrect. Those items were
Did you
there.
ever find a laptop?
No, ma'am. I have a letter. I parked the car at my house in Orlando that my daughter lives at. I have a
An
letter.
affidavit from your daughter saying none of that stuff was in there. Okay. Ms. Rothrock?
I have the motion that was filed in Orlando.
Yeah, I saw it.
Right after I had...
Yeah, it's after you go to a lawyer and you claim you had a bunch of stuff there. What I want to know is what proof do you have that you had the stuff there? That's what I want to know. And I got to tell you,
the DA's office
I wouldn't
had
believe
the
your tongue
affidavit.
if your tongue came notarized. That's kind of the problem we're having here.
I
So,
also
Ms.
have-
Rothrock, I find that you have woefully failed to prove to me that you had a sapphire ring, iPads, computers, we had 1,000 of them, 2, not 1. All the things that traditionally someone who's perpetrating insurance fraud does when their car gets stolen, all of a sudden the next day they remember that they had every mink stole was back. Yeah, I find that you have not been able to prove that, and I find in favor of the defendant in this case.
Well, Ms. Rothrock, it did not go too well for you, did it?
Well, it didn't, because I would have had the local police had offered to come. They knew that originally those items weren't listed there, but they did have pictures that they had provided to the DA's office of all
Pictures
the
of
items
what?
of all the items that had been in the car. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get copies of those from the DA's office, so because I didn't have them.
What do you think
here
about what he
today.
said he found in the car?
Well, first off,
Had you been living in the car?
No, the car had been detailed the day before, and I do have a receipt for that.
Day before what?
The day before of this incident. So
Before you got arrested?
correct. They should have
I'm
returned.
dying to know what you think about him. The judge said she wouldn't
didn't
believe your
return any
tongue
of-
if it were notarized. What do you think of that?
Well, she should have at least given me the items that my clothing.
You had no proof? No proof?
I do. It was on the inventory list.
Yeah, but you have to prove it. You have no proof.
And I had
Just a list
receipts.
doesn't work
She
in
didn't
court.
ask me for my receipts on the clothing. I had all my receipts, so she should have at least given me partial. But I did.
Sorry.
It's a
Case
shame.
is over.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Sorry about that. Mr. Milne? How you doing? I bet you're glad this is over, huh?
Oh, thank heaven. I guarantee you that. I haven't seen her in 3 years, and I won't see her again, so.
Wow. You learn anything from all of this?
Well, as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little more not lending my stuff out. My kids get on my back about it, you know. I'm a pretty easygoing guy, but,
I feel sorry for you. Okay. Good enough. Congratulations.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you very
Guy.
much. Right that way. Okay. Harvey?
Okay, I want to kind of go off the page here because this came up. If you have valuables, it is a really, really bad idea to leave them in a car, in the trunk of a car, in any place in the car. Because if the car gets stolen or broken into, and you can't prove what was in it, it is really hard to convince a judge all that expensive stuff was there.